today. I'm Pierre Léveillé from Deep South Resources. I'm the president and CEO. Deep South is listed on the TSX Venture in Canada under the symbol DSM. It's also listed in Frankfurt and on the OTCQB under DSM TF. The company holds 100% of a Haib copper project in the south of Namibia, which is in dispute with the government actually at the moment. The license has been pulled back by the Minister of Mines. But we've taken quite a lot of steps to get these rights back, and we're pretty confident to do it.
Okay, so page 7 of your PowerPoint says Namibia, low risk and mining friendly. Do you still feel the same way?
Yes. I had a little hesitation because when you live a situation like this, it's quite tricky. But yes, I'm doing business in Namibia since 1996. I've lived in the country. I still have a very strong network there. And I see a lot of prominent people in Namibia who are very annoyed by the situation we live at the moment. They don't like it because it's not good for the image of the country. So because of that, I still feel it's good.
Okay, but it doesn't take away from the fact that your share price, which was, had a bit of momentum behind it, has just been thrown off the edge of a cliff because of the license renewal is not forthcoming, it seems. Can you give us a little bit of backstory there in terms of the process involved before it was not renewed?
Yeah. The way the Mining Act works is that you have to renew the license every 2 years. It's an exploration license. And you have to file the application 90 days prior to the expiry of the license, which in our case was April 2021.
Did you do that?
So in January
Were you on
2021.
Time? Were you on time?
Yeah.
Okay.
We filed the application in January, more than 90 days prior to the expiry. And in that, you explain what you will do in the next 2 years, what kind of budget, and so on and so forth. And after we filed that, we have applied for a drilling permit in February, which has been granted immediately. We have started drilling in March. At the end of March, we have applied for a sample exportation permit to ship the cores out of the country for the assaying. That was going well. It has been approved, no problem. In mid-May, that permit has expired. So we applied again for a renewal of that export permit, which has been granted on the 3rd of June, 2021. It was good up to November. Those permits are approved and given granted by the Mining Commissioner's Office, which is the same office that review and prepare the file for renewal of the exploration license. And 6 days after we received the last renewal of the export sample permit, we received a letter from the minister saying that he was not intending to accept the renewal of the license. And he said because we have failed in doing some drilling and we have failed in doing a PFS as proposed.
Have you? Did you fail? Where? Because I can't find anywhere in writing where it says, what are the requirements for you under the previous license? What were you obliged to do? How much were you obliged to spend? How many meters to be drilled? What kind of reporting were you meant to have done? Where does it say that? It's
in the Mining Act and it's in the license. And the license, it comes with the application. When they approve the license, it's because they approve the proposal you made. In our case, we have proposed to do 4,000 meters of drilling.
Did you do that? Did you do that?
Yes.
Okay. What else?
We have proposed to do some metallurgical test work. We did a 1-ton test work with Mintech in South Africa, and we have proposed to do a PFS.
Did you do the PFS?
During the tenure.
Where's the PFS?
Yes.
PFS done.
During the tenure, every 3 months, you need to file a quarterly report to say where you stand, how much money you have spent.
Did you do that?
By the way, the budget was in Namibian dollars. It was $30 million. Okay?
Right.
That was proposed. And during the tenure, there was a period where we received these metallurgical tests from Mintech, and we said, gee, they are very good. So we don't see any reason to do a PFS. We would prefer just to include them in our existing PEA, do an upgraded PEA, and start a feasibility study immediately, because we know that we will go with the with the bioleaching only, because the PFS, what you should do is compare different technologies, different method of extraction, which is not, we were not in need of doing this, because in the past, there was already a feasibility study on the project. There was other scoping studies. So there was a lot of tests done in the database.
But let me so technically, you did not do a PFS. You're saying we're going to take that data, we're going to skip the PFS, which gives us permission not to do it, in your mind, and we go straight to a feasibility study. Did you communicate that skipping of a process to the ministry at any point?
Yes.
Okay.
The way it should be done, the Mining Act says that you have to inform them in a specific letter to the mining commissioner, and if they're not happy with it, there's two things they should do. They should meet you to have a discussion around it, or send you a letter stating that they give you a certain period to remedy to the situation. Okay, they have done none of that. And for the 3 quarters in a row after that, in our quarterly reports, we were talking specifically about that upgraded PEA that was coming, and that feasibility study that was to start. Okay, and effectively before the end of the license, before the expiry, we had started doing some work related to that feasibility study. Scoping studies on water usage, scoping studies on power solutions, scoping studies on environment. That was Mike Peasall was hired to do that, and that was on the way. We have started also some specific metallurgical tests with Mets in Australia, and that was specifically for that feasibility study. So, in fact, what we have proposed to them is to go a step ahead of doing a PFS. So it's a bit tricky to say that we have failed doing a PFS when we have proposed to do better, and they have never objected to that.
Well, hang on.
They have the obligation to
you told them what you were doing. You didn't get a response, right? And in your mind, you're saying, well, this is better than a PFS because we're going to the next stage. But, all around the same time, money's a bit tight for you guys. Probably not doing as much drilling as you wanted to do, and the markets, we're not being particularly kind to small companies, and you weren't getting so much notice. Did they feel that you were cash constrained, and that's why you made the decision to skip PFS and onto feasibility study, because you could save some money at the time?
No, we didn't skip the PFS to do, or because we were cash constrained. And I can tell you, because I know them well, they don't even check your balance sheet. They don't have a clue of what you're doing with your financial statements. So it's not a real issue there. And the reason why we can skip a PFS is because of the amount of work that has been done in the past by other companies like Teck, Rio Tinto, Falcon Bridge, Great Fitzroy, feasibility study, PFS. There was a certain number of exercises that were done, scoping studies that were done. That what we're doing now is that we're upgrading an existing feasibility study, and that's part of the 43101 code. You can do that as long as you have the right data to do it.
So what do you do now? Because the difficulty is, once you don't want to get in an argument, you certainly don't want to make this emotional. You want to make it cold and hard. We've applied, you've refused. Please tell us why. Have they told you why?
That's the first thing they said, and by letter. And then we said, listen,
what did they say?
Substantial.
Just be clear with me. What exactly did they say you have not done?
The 4,000 meters of drilling and the pre-feasibility study.
But you said, you just told me you have done that. Why would they say you haven't done that?
I don't have a clue. Look how ridiculous it is. When they wrote that, there was 3 drills on site, and they were fully aware of that because they gave us the permit to do that. And they gave us permits to export samples. So it's a little bit...
right.
This one not clear.
Next logical step is you say we have not done these 3 things. I'm showing you that we have. What was their response to that?
Then we had a meeting with the minister to try to show what we have done. And it was, we have never been able to present our case. We have never been able to explain what we were doing. He was asking questions very quick, and questions were probably organized in advance, and they ask us what have we done in the last 10 years and stuff like this. It's like, it's irrelevant because in the last 10 years, two things. First, we were not controlling the license. We were a minority shareholder up to 2017. So the last 4 years, fine. But before that, we were not controlling anything. And the other thing is that they have renewed the license every 2 years. So you cannot come back after saying we were not satisfied. You were, because you have, they have to stick on the last 2 years. Were you satisfied or not? And this is what we have proposed. We have proposed a budget of Namibian $30 million. We have spent 28.5 million Namibian. So we're very near of that budget. And we have done everything that we have proposed to do. The only thing we have modified is the PFS story. And they were informed of that, and they have never objected. And that's the way the law works. They don't need to send us a letter to say we agree to that. They need to send us a letter if they disagree to it. Okay?
Right. So
that's the Mining Act. That's the way the law works.
You've assumed, because your interpretation of the law is silence is complicity. That's in their silence says we agree to this. That's how you're reading it, yeah?
And it's not how we read it. It's the Mining Act. That's the way it is written in the Act.
Okay.
If they're not satisfied, they must inform us. If they don't inform us, it's because they're satisfied.
Right. You gave us a bit of a clue there. They're asking you about what have you done in the last 10 years. Is there a degree of frustration at the lack of, it doesn't matter whether you've been there or the company in its current form has been there, they perceive you as having been there. The company's been there for 10 plus years and you haven't done anything. You haven't got this into production. You haven't created jobs, tax revenues, all the other things that they were hoping would happen when that company first came along. Is that what you're being, cobbled together with, that history?
Not in their written communication.
Right.
Okay. That's the only time they mention something like this. It's at that meeting with the minister.
Right.
And even there's a situation where it's important to mention. It's during these 10 years, we have still done quite a lot of drilling with tech and drilling with us after. There was a lot of work that has been done and they were aware of that, fully aware of it.
Okay.
Where they have to understand it, it's a project that has serious challenges because it's at 0.31% copper primary sulfide. It's not economic for a traditional way of extracting the metal, grinding, milling, leach, flotation, roast leaching. It costs too much. The operations costs are too high. You would need a price of copper of $4.50 per pound on a sustainable period to take a decision to construct a mine there. If you go with that kind of with that classical route of extracting the metal. It's like it's very high power and demanding. So that's the reason why we were looking at other technologies. And that's the reason why we were going with that feasibility specifically on the bioleaching, because the other extraction technologies have shown they were not economic at this level here.
Right. So call option on sustainable copper price. Let's talk about where you take it from here. So the Minister of Mines, they have conversations. You've had one conversation. Have conversation and communications now stopped?
Yes.
Okay. They won't.
Because the day after.
Yeah.
The day after, he sent us a letter saying that he didn't change his decision. Okay. And then that's it. No communication with them after.
Okay. That door's shut. How many advocates have you got in country? Who are you using to try to get through to the ministry and the minister? First, just before I give you the names of these people, the way that the Mining Act works is that when an official of the ministry makes a decision, you can appeal to it, apart for the minister, because there's no one on top of him. Okay, so the appeal has to go in court. It's an administrative court case where you ask a review of the decision of the minister. So that's what we did. We filed an application to review the decision of the minister, and also at the same time we have requested the court to interdict the ministry to issue the license to anyone else. Our lawyers are Hanno Basso and Andrew Corbett, who are very high-level experienced lawyers in Namibia. And Andrew Corbett has worked on many files like this with or against the ministry. So he knows quite a lot about these type of situation. We have then filed this application in court. We have
filed an affidavit that has 35 pages showing all the problems we see, and there's a lot of background case that have been used also as precedent. The supporting documentation has 1,500 pages. So it's all the technical reports that we have filed with them, and quarterly reports and stuff like this, all the communications. All stamps showing that it was received by the ministry at such a date, it's like, so that's it. It's like we started with that. And the court has recently rendered a decision to interdict the ministry to issue the license to anyone else. The ministry was supposed to provide the court with the background documentation that has served to the minister to take that decision, and it was still not delivered, filed yet. So last week, the High Court has ordered the ministry to deliver these documents before, I think it's 10th of October. So you can see that on the ministry side compared to our side, they're not coping fast with what the court proceeding requests. Now, why is it like this? I will not speculate on that. It's
and in a big way, it really doesn't matter. They'll either get there or they won't. But at some point, the High Court is going to do what? I mean, they say right. They interdict the ministry from granting a license elsewhere. Great. So it's just parked up. But how long can it be parked up before a decision needs to be made? Before what? What power does the High Court have over the ministry?
High Court has the power to tell the minister to reverse his decision and give us the license back. Okay, that's what we're looking for. And what we have been told at the start of this procedure is that because it's not like a claim for damage and interest and stuff like this, it's more an administrative case. It should take about 6 to 9 months. So we have started that in July. So let's say by the end of the year, early next year sometime. Now COVID has potentially, slowed down some stuff because time to time in Namibia they had to go in lockdown like we do, everywhere. So it's so we don't have a clue exactly when it will be over. It's
okay. So the High Court has the ability to ask the Ministry of Mines to reverse the decision. What you've now got is a Ministry of Mines filled with individuals who are going to be a little bit emotional here because they just lost a case. You've made the High Court change their decision. They've lost its face. You're not going to get much cooperation from these guys going forward, are you?
That's a situation we will have to take care of, and that's very important. I would say that's probably the most important issue in all of this. Okay, we need to be prepared to make sure that they will be happy when we close all of this. Okay, so in our case, our ego is not attached to that. The only thing we want is to get our rights back or be compensated correctly. Period. That's it. And no ego, no emotion, but for that also, we know on the other side it could be the case. So and it's politic on their side. It's not the same on our side. So we are prepared to discuss with them and make sure we accommodate the situation correctly to make sure that everybody will be happy when we go out of that situation. We're still highly involved. Keep in mind, we still have about 15-20% of our shares held by Namibians. There's 2 prominent people on our board of directors, our chairman, they're Namibians. In our operation in Namibia, 2/3 of our operation is fully Namibian. So we already adhere to more than what they would be happy to see. So it's we're more a Namibian company than anything else. So it's important that we clear the air and we make sure that everybody is happy at the end.
Okay. I guess we have to sit back and wait and see what happens over the next few months or so on that. Right now, you've got an asset that's tied up in court. Therefore, you've got no asset. What do you do about it? What are you going to do for your shareholders to change that situation?
There's 2 things. First, there's that situation in court, but as we are, as I said, Namibian, we also use all our network to do some lobbying in front of the minister, in front of the prime minister, president. We work with some institution like Chamber of Mines Namibia Investment Promotion Board, that institution is there with the mandate to promote foreign investment in Namibia. So these institutions are not very happy with the situation. They want to see that resolved. So, we do quite a lot of lobbying, and we have a good feeling that at the end of the day, it's the way to go and make sure that we have a chance to settle that situation outside of the court. It's like the court will continue. There's a third thing that we're looking at. We're looking at our international options. We don't go too fast on that side. We have discussions with very high level lawyers specialized in international arbitration for treaties against, with companies, with treaties between different countries. There's options there, and there could be solutions. But if you go that route, it's preferable that at the moment we let the court in Namibia and the lobbying in Namibia be more advanced and have, hopefully the situation will be resolved within Namibia. We don't have to go on the international side, because if we start going on that side, then it's going to put more, how can I say that? We want to make sure that we keep everybody happy. And if we do that, then people won't be happy. It's like Namibian going outside to fight against Namibian. It doesn't make sense. So but we are prepared to do that. We have the right people around us to do it, but we will delay that until we're sure there's nothing else to do. Okay, and it can take months before we're getting there.
Okay, so you're lobbying some important people, the Prime Minister. Chamber of Commerce, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is going to be so low on their list of things to do because it's there's no economic component to it yet. It's all about what the future could hold. The Minister of Mines does report to the President, so that is his chain of command, as it were. When you say you feeling confident, the only person that I think is going to make any difference is the Prime Minister saying, what's this about? You called this wrong, change your mind. The rest are just kind of nice to have soiree evenings, aren't they? So what gives you the confidence?
Yes, you're right that there's not a lot of economic return at the moment on a project like this. It's still exploration and development. But the situation is that we're a foreign company. We are listed in Canada, the States, and we issue press releases all over the world, and we make a lot of noise about what has happened there. So it's not very good for the image of Namibia. The president of the country recently in an interview mentioned that he was unhappy with some people that were in Namibia that were creating problems for the image of the country because they desperately need foreign investment. So that's the reason why the Chamber of Mines, why the Namibia Promotion and Investment Promotion Board are very uncomfortable with that situation, because they know it creates problem for foreign investment. Chamber of Mines represent the industry, represents exploration companies also, and they start to see that some exploration companies are being questioned by their shareholders and investors, saying that if it has happened to Deep South, what can you tell me that guarantees it will not happen to you? And that's not good for the industry. That's not good for the foreign investment. It means that it could lower down. It's not because Deep South is a big company. It's just because it's listed and it makes noise around the world. That's it.
Okay, but
so
that's
why I have some confidence about resolving the situation.
Okay, we have Namibian companies come on here regularly. So they're typically uranium companies, and they've got seem to have good relationships. They've been able to mine. They're producers, they're developers, they're explorers, and it seems to be typically it's okay to do business in Namibia. So it gets people to thinking: is this a foreign investment discussion, or is this something that you've done, or your relationship on the ground locally? I mean, who are your people on the ground locally who should be managing these relationships? And clearly, well, it doesn't look like they have been able to foresee this problem, or prevent this problem, or solve this problem. So, is it a company issue, or do you think it's a ministry issue?
That's a good question. I still I'm still confident that our people on the ground have done the job correctly to report back correctly to the ministry and the authorities in Namibia. I think they were keeping some good relation also. It's difficult to say, because I gave you an example at the start. We had applied for a license renewal in January, and after that, they have granting us some permits to continue to develop the project. So my question to them was, if you were not intending to renew the license, why have you granted us all these permits, drilling and export sample permits, and let us spend millions of dollars on the project still, and then you pull the plug? Why have you done that? And the answer of the mining commissioner to that was that they were in their full right to do that because they want to have as much data as possible from us after leaving there. So I cannot tell you that that was a shocking answer. And in a way, it's not looking good on the ministry's side. So yes, probably if we go back and look at it correctly, we will have to improve our relation with the ministry, certainly. It seems that because of that answer, there's a hiccup somewhere.
Right.
But that answer came only in June when the license was pulled out. So,
right. So let's park up Namibia for now, because one of your other options is to look elsewhere for alternative assets. Now we've got a couple of companies, we've spoken to this year who are in a similar position. For whatever reason, license has been either revoked or not granted. They're stuck. It's going to take a long time before that gets resolved, and in a very meaningful way, beating your head against the wall by getting lawyers to look at it. I know who the winner there is. Getting lawyers to spend time and your money looking at it isn't always the best solution. Going and finding another asset somewhere else could be the solution. So what are you doing about that? Is that an option?
It is certainly an option because we were already looking for projects before that situation happened, because we were looking at the way we were developing the project and the company, and we were thinking we were arriving at a point where the Haib copper project was to have its momentum, that we can develop it properly, and then it would be the right time to start looking at least one other asset. So we were already shopping and looking at projects. Now that situation has happened, so I can tell you we are just going faster, looking at very good projects in good jurisdictions. And we hope by the end of the year, or even before that we will have at least a second, another asset. And that's very important because we're there to develop the company. We cannot just sit back, think that we will get the project back again, and then, we will make a killing. It's not necessarily the way it will happen. We can dream of a lot of things. We're very confident we will get the project back, but we cannot guarantee it, and we don't know when. Okay, there's no schedule to that. So in the meantime, we need to make sure that we still have some cash. We're on that side, we don't have a problem. So now let's manage the cash correctly, be tight on it, and let's find another nice projects. We prefer copper because that's really where we were specialized. So if we can get another copper project, that's perfect. It's like, and we look at some stuff that is pretty interesting. So we think that we're onto something now. Yes, that's the option number one, and that's what we're doing.
Okay. Look, firstly, I will say at this point, to be fair to you, I think, we've made an investment in Africa, similar situation, and for no fault of the company, license was not reissued. So I understand your position. It was very frustrating for me as an investor at the time, but I understand your position. And I say we've spoken to a couple of companies this year alone, which have gone through a similar process as you. So I get it. I appreciate you being honest today, or at least as transparent as you can be for a public company as to what's going on. Okay, the most important of which is you don't know when this gets resolved, so you've got to get on and do plan B, which is go find another asset. Okay, where you're looking at stuff, you think you may be able to get something over the line this year. It's probably copper, may not be. You've got to keep your options open. Is that the message I'm hearing?
Yes, all the options are open for us now. And we want to continue to develop the company. We have a good team. We can do it. We are, and of course, we like copper because we all know that copper has a bright future. So, when we have starting specializing really in copper, so it's that's what we focus on at the moment.
Okay, so talk to me about cash. How much cash have you got today?
I didn't check the balance sheets since a little while, but between 2 and 2.5 million Canadian.
Okay, so in terms of G&A, in terms of running around looking at other assets type money, you've got that covered, right? Okay, fine. That's what I wanted to know, because again, sometimes companies get down to fumes and they can't even afford air travel to get to the place to look at the asset, right?
No, that's
You're
not our
okay.
case. And we're pretty lucky on that side, because if we had to raise money in that situation, it would be feasible, but with let's say it's a challenge. We don't need to raise money for a while.
Okay, and clearly because of the High Court case and the fact that this has been interdicted, that there's no obligation on your part to be spending money in Namibia right now until you get resolution over what the decision is going to be. Yeah. So there's no cash burn. Okay, maybe except for staff in country, presumably. Will you be letting staff go?
We have reduced that to the bare bone minimal because that's the first thing we did. We cut many contracts, consultants. We stopped everything we were doing to cut the expenses to the bare bone minimum. In Namibia, and also at the
board level,
head office level, also we have reduced quite a lot of things. It's very important.
So the board have taken a pay cut.
Yeah.
Okay. Pierre, appreciate you coming on today. Thank you very much. Come straight back on when you've got something, ideally a target, an acquisition, or something that you can get over the line. Because I think that's the only way this gets resolved for your shareholders anytime soon.
Yeah, it's our goal, and yes, I will come back to you. I'm very happy to do that. It's a good opportunity also to get a little bit more information to our shareholders in a clearer way than just a blunt press release. Thanks for that.